Every Who down in Whoville liked Christmas a lot. But the Grinch who lived just north of Whoville did not. The Grinch hated Christmas. The whole Christmas season. Now, please don't ask why. No one quite knows the reason. It could be that his head wasn't screwed on quite right. It could be perhaps that his shoes were too tight. But I think the most likely reason of all may have been that his heart was 2 sizes too small. Well, whatever the reason, his heart or his shoes. He stood there on Christmas Eve, hating the Who's, staring down from his cave with a sour, grinchy frown at the warm-lighted windows below in their town, for he knew every Who down in Whoville beneath was busy now hanging a mistletoe wreath. And they're hanging their stockings, he snarled with a sneer. Tomorrow it's Christmas, it's practically here. Then he growled with his Grinch fingers nervously drumming. I must find a way to keep Christmas from coming. For tomorrow he knew all the Who girls and boys would wake up bright and early, they'd rush for their toys, and then oh, the noise. Oh, the noise. And that's one thing he hated, the noise, like a grade 8 class when Mrs. L isn't here. It's crazy. Then all the Who's, the young and the old, would sit down for a feast. And they'd feast, and they'd snarf, and they'd feast. They'd start with Who pudding, and rare Who roast beast, which is something the Grinch couldn't stand in the least. Then they'd do something he liked least of all. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, would stand close together. The Christmas bells ringing. They'd stand hand in hand, and the Who's would start singing. They'd sing, and they'd sing. And the more the Grinch thought of this Who Christmas sing, the more the Grinch thought, I must stop this whole thing. Why, for 53 years I've put up with it now. I must stop Christmas from coming. But how? Then he got an idea. An awful idea. The Grinch got a one awful idea. I know just what to do, the Grinch laughed in his throat, and he made a quick Santa Claus hat and a coat. Then he chuckled and clucked. What a neat Grinchy trick. With this hat and this coat, I'll look just like St. Nick. All I need is a reindeer. The Grinch looked around, but since reindeer are scarce, there was none to be found. Now, did that stop the Grinch? Just say, no, Uncle Hal, like this. No, Uncle Hal. No, the Grinch said, if I can't find a reindeer, I'll make one instead. So he called his dog Max, and he took some red thread and tied a big horn on top of his head. Then he loaded some bags and some old empty sacks on a ramshackle sleigh, and he hitched up old Max. Then he said, get up, and the sleigh started down toward the homes of the Who's, who lay a snooze in their town. All their windows were dark. Quiet snow filled, am I with you? Yes. All the windows were snow filled the air. All the Who's were all dreaming sweet dreams without care. Show me. Yeah, just till he came to the first house in the square. This is stop number 1, the big Santa Claus hissed, and he climbed to the rooftop, empty bags in his fist. Then he slid down the chimney, a rather tight pinch. But if Santa could do it, then so could the Grinch. How did you know this? You guys frighten me. He got stuck only once for a moment or two. Then he stuck his head out of the fireplace flue where all the Who's stockings all hung around. These stockings, he grinned, are the first things to go. Then he slithered and slunk with a smile most unpleasant. Around the whole room he took every present. Popguns and bicycles, roller skates, drum, checkerboards, tricycles, popcorn, and plums. And he stuffed them in bags. Then the Grinch very nimbly stuffed all the bags, one by one, up the chimbley. Then he slunk to the icebox. He took the Who's feast. He took the Who pudding. He took the roast beast. He cleaned out that icebox as quick as flash. Why, that Grinch even took the last kind of Who hash. OMG. You don't want to lose your Who hash. Then he stuffed all the food up the chimney with glee. And now, grinned the Grinch, I will stuff up the tree. And the Grinch grabbed the tree and he started to shove when he heard a small sound like the coo of a dove. He turned around fast and saw a small Who, little Cindy Lou who was not more than show me 2. I want you to put your 2 fingers against somebody else so that you'll remember. Come on, now you'll never forget. Boys and girls, the Grinch had been caught by this little Who daughter who'd got out of bed for a cup of cold water. She stared at the Grinch and said, Santa Claus, why? Why are you taking our Christmas tree? Why? But you know, that old Grinch was so smart and so slick. He thought up a lie and he thought it up good. Why, my dear little tot, the fake Santa Claus lied. There's a light on this tree that won't light on one side, so I'm taking it home to my workshop, my dear. I'll fix it up there and bring it back here. And his did fooled the child, and he patted her head, and he got her a drink, and he sent her to bed. And when Cindy Lou Who went to bed with her cob, he went to the chimney and stuffed the tree up. And the last thing he took was the log for their fire. Then he went up the chimney himself, the old liar. On their walls he left nothing but hooks and some wire. And the one speck of food that he left in the house was a crumb. That was too small even for a mouse. Then he did the same thing to the other Who's houses, leaving crumbs. Too small for the other Who's houses. It was 1:15 dawn. All the Who's still abed, all the Who's still a snooze when he packed up his sled, packed it up with their presents, the ribbons, the wrappings, the tags and the tinsels, the trimmings, the trappings, 3,000 feet up the side of Mount Crumpet. He rode with his load to the tip-top to dump it. Pooh, pooh to the Who's. He was Grinchishly humming. They're just finding out that no Christmas is coming. They're just waking up. I know just what they'll do. Their mouths will hang open for a moment or two. Then all the Who down in Whoville will all cry, boo. Well, that's a noise, grinned the Grinch, I simply must hear. So he paused, and he put his hand to his ear. And he did hear a sound. It started in Lou. It started from the snow, and it started to grow. But this sound didn't sound sad. What? This sound sounded merry. But it couldn't be so. But it was merry. Very. He stared down at Whoville, and the Grinch popped his eyes. Then he shook. What he saw was a shocking surprise. Every Who down in Whoville, the young and the old, was singing without any presents at all. He hadn't stopped Christmas from coming. It came. Somehow or other it came just the same. And the Grinch, with his Grinch feet ice cold in the snow, stood puzzling and puzzling. How could it be so? It came without ribbons, it came without tags, it came without packages, boxes, or bags, and he puzzled 3 hours till his puzzler got sore. Show me your puzzlers. Then he thought of something that he hadn't before. Maybe Christmas, perhaps, doesn't come from a store. Maybe Christmas isn't about Black Friday. And what happened then? Well, in Whoville, they say that the Grinch's small heart grew 3 sizes that day. And the minute his heart didn't feel quite so tight, he whizzed with his load through the bright morning light, and he brought back the toys and the food for the feast. And he himself, the Grinch, carved the roast